Hi, you guys. I just flicked on my camera a couple minutes early just to get some time to do a mic check and such. If you hear me and see me okay, if you could let me know in the chat box, that would be very, very, very helpful. Because without that, I sometimes feel like I'm talking to myself. So, thank you for coming to today's workshop. Today we'll be talking about what preps to practice if you don't have an interview call yet. And this is a question we get very, very, very often. Like, oh, I know I need to practice, but I don't know what to do. Or like, yeah, I know I need to do something, but where do I start? There's so many things. Which preps should I practice? All those kinds of things. So yeah, let's tackle that topic today. And can you hear me and see me okay? Please do let me know in the chat room. Yes, no? Okay, well, I guess maybe being quiet is a good thing. All right, we're at the top of the hour now. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know time is very precious. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Today, um, first of all, anyway, if somebody could verify for me that you can hear me, I would really appreciate that. Just to make sure that I'm just not like blabbing on and nobody can hear me, something like that. My name is Alyssa Marshall, the co-founder of International Dentist Central, along with Kevin. And we've been working with applicants, helping applicants on their applications, bench test, and interview for several years now. Time flies. It feels like it was yesterday when we started. Thank you so much for letting me know you can hear me. Really appreciate it, you guys. Yeah, so we started that a few years ago. Time flies. Now it's actually like it's time for me to say like, oh, it's been several years since we've been doing this. That's so weird. Anyway, so yeah, we've been doing it for a few years, and it is a very interesting thing, right? Like working on bench test skills virtually is not a very common thing in any way, really, like in any stretch. It is very uncommon. So we kind of pioneered that really. And currently we have over 150 members we're working with. And with that, it's interesting because I probably see more preps and work with more people than anybody else at any given time. That means, yeah, because when you work with somebody person to person, like live, you can only do so much. But when it is virtual, I see so many preps. And so by now, we kind of have it down to there's a sequence we follow. We kind of have like a repertoire we go through, which people with the students or the members that join us. And yeah, we're really enjoying like seeing huge differences made by working with us and people's hand skills. Just in case you don't know me all that well, I went through the International Dentist Program in UCLA, and I think one thing that I want to make sure that you know about me is the fact that when I started, my bench test skills were pretty bad. They were like really quite bad. And I've had to overcome that to pass the tests in, a few month time frame. And it hasn't been that long since I did that, like for myself. And because of that, I think I can relate to and kind of meet you at where you're at. I'm like really good at guessing what mistakes you've made by looking at the preps, not just saying like, oh, hey, your isthmus is wide, because like, oh, so what? Like that doesn't help. but it's more like, okay, this is why your isthmus is wide because you've done this and this, but you need to do that and that instead. Stuff like that. Anyway, so that's a lot of fun working with people. Okay, so where are you guys all tuning in from, by the way? We have a few that chimed in the chat room, letting us know that you can indeed hear me, which thank you. I think I've had to ask like 10 times until I was like, oh, like, is nobody gonna answer me today? Anyway, let me know when where you're tuning in from. One thing to note is the fact that there's always a delay between when I speak and when that reaches you. So like when you can hear me, by the time you hear me, it's usually about 20 seconds after I like said something. So just something to keep in mind with these events always. Great. Okay, so how many of you guys have an interview call right now, like working towards something? And how many of you guys are just like, oh, I need to do it? You know, like, oh, I hear that I need to start practicing for the bench test before I have an interview call, but like, what am I supposed to practice because I don't even know which school I'm going to? Like, I wonder how many of you guys are in, you know, either of those scenarios. And if you haven't even applied yet, whatever, we still welcome you. It's still great to have you on. But one of the key points with the bench test is to remember to always, always start your practice early. I've never had one single person come to me and say, Alyssa, you gave me bad advice. You said practice early, practice a lot, but that was not what I needed. Like, I had plenty of time. Like, why did you do that? I never hear that. Instead, what I would hear always is, oh yeah, I made a mistake. I started practicing too late. Like, I heard from you that you urged me before to practice before I have an interview call, and I just kind of brushed it off, and I was like, whatever, because I was just not motivated enough to start. Because, I mean, understandably, right, if you don't have an interview call, it's understandable that you may not be motivated. But so I wasn't motivated, I didn't practice, and now like I got an interview call and I'm freaking out and I don't have enough time, and like, what do I do? All this kind of stuff happens, and that is like one thing that I really want to change in our community. Waiting for people, applicants waiting until they get a bench test, like an interview call to start practicing for a bench test. And honestly, it has gotten a lot better. So we have 2 people from the audience that said they're waiting for an interview, 1 that said they have an interview coming up in Pittsburgh. Yay, awesome, congrats. Anyhow, that is one thing that I really, like, I take that as my mission. Like, whether you work with us or not is a completely different story, but regardless, like, I really want people to not wait until they get their interview calls and like get started with practicing early. And like, I mean early, like whenever you can, because this is a long game and there's a lot to do. So yeah, I'm really glad that you guys are here to kind of like, I don't know, discuss this topic with me, because it's one that I'm very, very passionate about. And it's one that is always, whenever I get those kind of emails, like, hey, like I started too late. By the time I just didn't have enough time. You're very close to wasting a year because you didn't spend a couple of months while you were waiting for an interview call to practice. Like, you're about to flush, all of your applications, all of the efforts you put into getting everything ready. You're about to flush it down the toilet by waiting. And so it's, it's something that I'm passionate about. It's something that I really want you to focus on early, not to wait. Do not wait. Because honestly, like if you got your interview call, they were interested in enough in you to be like, oh hey, like come on over here. I want to see your hand skills and I want to talk to you. That's the bench test and interview call, right? Like just think of it very simply. I want to see your hand skills and I want to talk to you. See if you're a good fit or not. And if you blow either of them up, like you kind of don't have a chance. It's not like, oh, what's more important than the other? Like either one, you blow it up, you're gonna wipe your chances out. But bench test skills take a lot longer to develop. It just does. It's not like you can. It's kind of like if you think of, those like painters that paint on the streets or like on TV, and they make it look so simple, and they just do stuff, and it's like done, and you're like, huh, that sounds fun, and it's so simple. Like maybe I can do that too, and then you like try it, and it looks awful. Or maybe it doesn't quite look awful, but it's just not what you thought. Like you think you've followed the steps that they have done, like demonstrated in front of you, and then you try it and it's like, oh, it's not as simple as as that person is making it out to look like, because that person is a lot more skilled at it and they've done it a long time. And that's kind of what pros do, right? Like any like pro athlete, even if you watch them, they make things look so simple and easy. But if you try and go in and do it, like effortless, right? But if you try and go in and do it, it is anything but. Like it isn't easy, right? So that's the thing with bench test skills and it is more challenging because everybody here, all of you guys are dentists. Some with several years of experience, some with not, some haven't touched a handpiece for a long time. But regardless of any of that kind of situation, it's kind of like we all have this like, oh yeah, like I know how to use my handpiece. I've used it for several years. Even if you haven't practiced, you used it for years in school, right? So like you've done that, and it just feels like all you need to know is what to do. Like, oh, so like I just need to, I even had somebody tell me just a few days ago that she thought she could just watch the bench test mastery videos and go to the bench test. And it didn't go very well. Because you look at it, right? You watch the video and you're like, oh yeah, okay, she's making it look really easy. I can do that. And then like when you try it, it is very, very, very different. So anyway, I've been rambling off for a while, but bench test skills, it takes a while to develop, just like it would take a while to do that paint that painting that person makes it so easy to do, or like do that whatever acrobatic move that that athlete so easily effortlessly does. It isn't something that you can just like jump in and do, even if you had used a handpiece before. Like we all used paintbrushes before. That doesn't mean we can do that painting, right? It's different. It's different because first, artificial teeth and real teeth are very different. Real teeth are much easier to work with. Oh my God. Like if the bench test happened to be like on actual extracted teeth or whatever, you would have a much, much, much easier time doing this whole thing. Like these typodont teeth, the consistency of it, they're nothing like teeth. Honestly, they really are so different. And then there is the part of ideal preps, which, all right, when a patient comes, most of the time they've had issues already, right? Like most of them things are retreats. So the first step is like just get rid of whatever filling material was there, and if caries developed underneath it, just get rid of those underneath it. And then we plane the walls, and then we're ready to fill. That's kind of like how the sequence goes. When we're working on a typodont tooth, we are working on a completely intact tooth, right? And we are supposed to do our supposed to do our ideal preparations, which are itty bitty, so small, like so small. If you've been out in the real world for a while practicing, like going back to working on typodonts, it's just like, are you serious? Like, like, because you haven't been working with these dimensions in a very, very long time. And honestly, a lot of you haven't really worked with the dimensions. You've memorized the dimensions, you know the dimensions, but you were never really critically assessed and pushed to meet those, like 0.3 millimeter openings in terms of, your proximal box. And this true holds for me too. When I was learning in my home school, my first dental school, I should say, we were given hand instruments, right? But nobody taught us how to use it. And now I'm actually guessing, because it was the residents that were teaching us, I don't think the residents knew how to use it either, because they weren't taught. Like, who uses hand instruments in real life? But in the ideal class 2 preparations that we do, you cannot make a good opening if you do not use a hatchet. It is just not possible. Nothing fits. Like, if you try to make a box without it, you will either have to completely nick the tooth, or you will open the contact way too wide. There's just no way around it. Nothing else, no burr can fit in there. Well, if you use like a needle burr, you possibly could, but that's not the point, because you don't want to use things like a needle burr, because you're gonna easily make like nicks inside the walls. Like a thin burr will do that, right? So you want to use like our 330s and 245s, but you can't make the opening, so you must use it. So like all these kinds of things that are so different from how we've been taught. Like, we've been taught in terms of writing or reading, and we're really good at that, but that honestly has like nothing to do with us being able to do it. It's kind of like reading on different painting techniques. Does that mean much? I mean, like, yeah, you can try to emulate it, but it really needs a lot of practice for you to actually like take it in and make it yours. That's what you need to do, right? You need to take those techniques in and make it yours, and like go out and actually perform. But you need to first make it yours, and reading or watching or none of that will help you make it yours. Like, that is important to do, because like if you don't know where you're headed, you won't be able to get there. Or it's kind of like, where are you going? You'll be wasting a lot of time just treading waters, I should say. You'll be wasting a lot of time treading waters and not really doing what is going to advance you, right? But anyway, and I'm getting a question about a specific school interview related question. We'll get to questions if we have time at the end, but for the most part, we're going to try to stick to the topic of the workshop first. So hope you understand, but if you have questions, do ping them in, and I will be going through questions that are more related to today's workshop topic first, and then whatever we have time we can get to it. But thanks for asking the question, and whatever else questions any of you guys have, just kind of ping them, and if it's related to what I'm talking about, I'll address them as we go, and if they're not, I'll try to leave some time towards the end to get to them. So Nadia Basharat, I may have butchered your name, and Apern67. You guys both said you're waiting for interviews, and I'm thrilled you're here when you don't have an interview and like you're thinking about doing it and like getting started soon. This is great. Like, that is exactly what you need to be doing. When you are practicing for the first time, when you don't have a bench test yet, if you have a bench test, like, you should practice for what's going to be asked, if you know, right? Because some schools don't even tell you. So if you have a bench test and they just left it completely open-ended, like, we may ask a cavity, or we may ask a crown, or we may ask, or this or that or that. If you're going to that kind of school, or if you don't have a bench test scheduled yet, then first, I mean, like, all right, a top question that comes up a lot actually is like, oh, what all do we need to practice? Like, I get that I need to practice cavities and crowns, but what about inlays and onlays? And what about the endoaxis openings? And what about the bridges? And what about all these other things, right? There's so many things that you could potentially be doing. I want to say, first of all, if you don't know where you're going, just take a breath and think cavities and crowns first, okay? Like, in terms of indirect restorations, preparations for indirect restorations, you can't do a good job. I'm just telling you right now, you cannot do a good job with them if you first do not know how to do a good cavity and a crown. It's kind of like a hybrid. If you think of onlay, it has the occlusal portion, it kind of has a crown portion too, right? So it kind of has a center portion and then it covers the occlusal. It really kind of is a hybrid or a compilation of both cavities and a crowns, except that you use different burrs. So like instead of using a 330, which would make a convergent profile, you would use a divergent burr so that like it goes in and out, kind of like a crown would. So anyway, all that aside, the only things you need to think of first is cavities and crowns, seriously, okay? If you can't do those two things, the rest of the stuff will also come very, very difficultly for you. This is the first step. And between the cavities and the crowns, I recommend starting from cavities first, okay? And from a cavity, I recommend that you start from a lower molar first. Ultimately, you want to practice lower molar, and upper premolar at the least. Lower premolar, if you're going to Indiana, maybe, but it's really uncommon otherwise. So before I moved to like a lower premolar, I would actually be like, hey, probably you should do crowns first. But cavities, lower molar first. Start there because the prep is big, right? Like it's unlike a upper molar where you do two small preps, like and leave the oblique ridge intact. So like each prep becomes small, right? So the lower molar is connected all the way throughout. It's kind of the largest prep we would do that is classically asked. So you want to start there because it really shows in vivid detail where your hands stand. And by the way, I get ready to really become humbled by how difficult it is. I think this is a part that people struggle with a lot, is how humbling it is when you haven't practiced for a while and you have this memory of you like, you know, treating patients and you've done it and you've done great there. But then when you pick up a handpiece and a typodont to start practicing, how enormous the cavity preparations become and how difficult it is to maintain convergence and how challenging it is to create those 90-degree exit angles and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be very, very humbling, okay? So I hope you're ready for that, all of that. Start from your lower molar. And just like think back to when you started dental school first. And I mean, honestly, in an ideal world, we would have all been taught that way in our first dental schools, including me. But we weren't. So, but if you think back, like how would you teach somebody? Start from class ones, start from the occlusal part and see how you do. Like the photos that you see, let's say in the Art and Science of Operative Dentistry and other books and such, those are not exaggerations. Those beautiful preps, that is what you want to do. Like that is your goal. That is not just for showing. That is exactly where you're headed and what yours should also look like. So start from lower molar. And in the beginning, you're going to totally butcher the proximal box. Like do practice it, but just get ready to butcher it, but don't put that as your top priority. Put your occlusal part as a top priority because that's like the kind of step one, you know what I mean? But I mean, since you're working on the tooth, you might as well like extend the box and practice the box but the highest priority in your mind in terms of like what you're really working on right now should be the occlusal segment. Okay, so start with lower molar class 2s. I will start with MO, and then you can go to a DO. And then you can do like lower second molars are also asked pretty commonly. They're very, very similar, other than the fact that the first molar has 5 cusps and the second molar has 4 cusps. But you can practice that, right? And then you can go to the upper molar, and then you can go to the upper premolar. That's kind of the thing with cavities. And then with crowns, Salawani just asked, what kind of preps do I need to start with most schools? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like these preps that I'm giving you right now, those are the where you want to start with, because they're most classically asked too. It's not just that like these are great places to start practice. It's not just for the sake of practice, but these are actually preps that are most commonly asked in schools. Lower first molar, MOs, and then lower second molars sometimes, and then upper molars, upper first molars. Upper second molars really are not asked very much. But even if it does, it's like it looks exactly the same as a lower first molar. It's just a tiny bit smaller. So it shouldn't be a very big deal. And then upper premolars, both MOs and DOs, okay? That's cavities. Let me drink a sip of water. And then we have crowns, right? And this is like a whole different can of worms. When we start talking about crowns, we have a lot of like questions come to mind, right? Like what tooth, and then what kind of crown, right? There's like full gold crowns, PFMs, all ceramic crowns, all these different burrs that look similar to one another. Like what the hell? Like so much stuff. With crowns, I would recommend that you start your practice with a full gold crown, not with a PFM, because you first need to, I find it very difficult to help somebody improve their shoulder margins when they do not have a strong chamfer margin first. Once you know how to do a good chamfer, now we can expand upon that and make a wide, nice shoulder as well. But trying to jump straight to a shoulder, it's like too many steps in the middle. And full gold crowns are asked commonly anyways. You're not like missing out by not doing it. So, but thing is, full gold crowns will only be asked on molars, right? Because who wants a gold crown on their premolars? Like it's right here. You don't want that. It's only these. So you practice full gold crowns on upper molars and lower molars. So you see the theme? You're starting with like molars first. Buy a lot, just stock up on a lot of teeth for your molars, okay? Just do it. Like I don't think you'll regret it. You'll easily be able to sell it if you have any left over, but seriously, like shipping is a lot of money and it's just kind of stressful. If you have a dental school close by to where you are, well then you can just kind of walk in there and buy teeth, which is great. But otherwise, like these typodont companies take a very long time to ship and to do all that kind of stuff. So what they're talking about, full gold crowns first, chamfer first, okay? Do that, and then you can work on PFMs, okay? PFMs, it's very similar to full gold crown, except that you're going to reduce a little bit more from the occlusal, and you're going to reduce more from the buccal with a different burr, but it's going to feel pretty much the same, but with a different burr, so that you create a shoulder margin and you do more of that. So you make the margin wider and you take out more from the buccal side, right? Uh, so that's where you want to go next. And PFMs, you need to practice everywhere. By everywhere, I mean upper and lower molars, upper premolars, upper centrals, upper canines, and lower canines. I know, I'm sorry. It's a lot of teeth. I know, I wish I had something better for you. But start with upper lower molars, upper central. Like this is the sequence you want to go. Upper and lower molars, it doesn't really have a preference. Like there's both asked kind of like the same amount. Then you move to upper anterior, upper centrals, okay? Then move to upper premolars, then do upper canines. That's how I would do it. Did you write that down? Go over one more time. Upper lower molars, upper centrals, upper premolars, then upper canines, then lower canines. So start with a PFM. So that's kind of how you want to like practice all of your PFMs. And then you move to all ceramic crowns. All ceramic crowns are very similar to PFMs. Like the transition, like working from full gold crown to a PFM is going to be a bigger step than going from a PFM to an all ceramic crown. Well, let me ask you this, like if you can do an amazing crown on a lower molar, do you think it'll be that difficult to do an amazing PFM on an upper premolar? It isn't. Like, it really isn't. It's really the first few crowns that are the most difficult, because a crown is a crown is a crown, regardless of what tooth you're putting it on, right? We follow the same guidelines, taper, occlusal clearance, like it's all the same stuff. It's just what tooth is it on. So while you're doing this, you want to internalize the foundations. Like, why are you doing this? Because there's always a chance that you may be asked one thing that you never practiced, right? And if you didn't practice it, chances are most people also sitting in the test room probably also didn't practice it. So if that comes about, I really, like, you shouldn't freak out. Like if you had your basics strong and like you know why, like I've seen because I do like a lot of feedbacks and evaluations for the bench test mastery members, I've seen everything. And like one thing that I saw would be like, I've seen somebody send in a PFM with a shoulder margin that's wide on the lingual side and a thin chamfer margin on the buccal side. I see missing functional cusp bevels on the wrong cusp, that kind of stuff all the time. It's not uncommon to see that kind of stuff. And for those kind of things, I would think that that's because you kind of really, you're not sure, like you're following steps blindly, all right? But you're not really sure why you're doing what you're doing. So maybe you were actually looking at upper molar crown preps, but like you were doing a lower molar while you were watching upper molar module, whatever. And for the upper molar module, I'm like, oh, give the functional cusp bevel on the lingual cusp, and you just do it on the lower molar, right? Like that's not cool. And thing is, like, you need to know the why behind each and everything. Like, why is there a shoulder when there is porcelain, right? Because porcelain needs bulk, and we make the shoulder margins wider. So instead of a thin 0.3 to 0.5 millimeter metal margin or gold margin, like we are butting porcelain against the tooth, and so we need a lot more width. So the porcelain is bulky and strong there, and that's why we make 1 to 1.2 millimeter wide shoulders where porcelain will just butt against, and it's very strong, and that's why you make it flat and all that kind of stuff, right? So always know why. Like if there's a feature in the prep and you don't know why, you want to revisit that so that you are kind of bulletproof. Let's just say like you totally forgot to practice for a upper premolar crown, and somebody told you that you don't have to do it or whatever, and you went to a test and you were asked to do it. But if you practiced upper and lower molars and upper centrals or whatever, like you've done plenty of crowns, you just have to do it on a upper premolar. That's it, right? Upper premolar is kind of like a half of a lower molar, except the functional cost bevel difference and the angulation difference. But if you just look at the shape, it's like it's cut in half, right? It's the same thing. Like it's exactly the same thing. So like the occlusal clearance amount is going to be the same. The way you tackle the buccal and lingual walls are going to be the same. Everything about it is the same, except that the tooth is smaller. Instead of having 4 cusps, it only has 2. So it's like that kind of stuff. But yeah, so if you know how to do, so instead of going wide and broad in terms of your practice, I would first go like narrow and deep so that you really know how to do a good molar crown prep. And once you get that down, now if you cut that in half, you have a premolar. Anteriors are a little bit different, and it is its own challenge. It is challenging. Anteriors are one of the teeth that takes the longest for somebody to actually get. Sometimes can be like the like a PFM on a upper central, but once you get it, you get it. So there, it's like the same thing though. Instead of having like the buccal and lingual walls butt each other or like converge towards each other and both be long, you know, for upper central, you'll have the labial and the palatal wall that need to converge, right? But the palatal wall is so very short, but that's still a wall. So that kind of throws a lot of people off and make people think that, oh, this is like a completely different type. And you're right in the sense that there's not, it's not as easy of a transition as you would, let's say, going from lower molar to upper premolar or upper molar to upper premolar is a easier transition than going from a molar to a central. There's definitely more to learn because the way you form the labial angle is a little different. You have the incisal reduction and you have the cingulum and these structures that weren't present in other teeth before. Working with a very short wall on the palatal is challenging because if you think about it, basically use the same burr, right? Like if you use a A56016 to make a chamfer, which you should, when you bring that to, let's say, a wall of any molar or premolar to form that wall is pretty high, right? But compared to that, the palatal wall of an upper central is like this short. But we're going to approach it the same way, kind of. So we like put a comparable amount of pressure on it. But instead of this pressure spreading on this high of a surface, now it's only spread across this. So it cuts so much faster. Really, like a split second too long, you have a really wide chamfer on your lingual. So you need to learn how to lighten up pressure and all that kind of stuff to deal with the to be able to give a good chamfer on the palatal. So anyway, that's another skill set to learn. But yeah, so those are the preps you want to do. Indiana asks for a bridge preparation. Is that upper molar to premolar bridge? So that's another thing you may want to put in your arsenal. But remember, we are working with typodont teeth, which means that the teeth are aligned really darn well. This is not a patient with teeth going all over the place. This is a typodont where teeth are, they're perfect. So your bridge prep is gonna be it's just gonna be great if you do a good crown prep on the molar and on the premolar. Like it's just gonna be a good bridge prep. So it's nothing to freak out about. And then for those wondering about indirect, like preparations for indirect restorations, inlays, onlays, they haven't been asked in a while, like anywhere. So I wouldn't really worry about it. Like they just haven't. Um, USC a few years ago asked for they did ask, and this did take me by a huge surprise. They asked for a lower molar onlay, an all ceramic onlay. So I guess in that sense, it's worth practicing, but only if you're like going to a school like that, okay? And like if you don't have an interview call yet, that this is not the place to start. This is like if you are done and ready with crowns, with cavities. Now, when you get an interview call from a school like USC, now you're like, all right, I have 3 weeks to practice my onlay because I'm cool with everything else. And you know what? Like, if you are cool with everything else, you can do an onlay in a day. I'm not kidding. Like, because you've know the techniques to do stuff, you've trained your hands to do stuff. Like, it does not take that long. The challenge is not so much learning how, all right, like the technical challenge is definitely there, right? Like we have to learn how to do the onlay. But on but that after you overcome that part in terms of like step by step, like, oh, like prep the center part this much and the occlusal reduction that much, after you overcome that, it's not that difficult. I actually had a lot of people tell me that onlay was like, they were just freaked out about it because they've never done it before, which I mean, here, me too, right? Like I haven't done it until like I had to practice for it. But and I practiced for it not because of that, but because I was when I was interviewing at UCLA, they always ask for upper molar gold onlays, which they stopped a few years ago. So that was like something that we had to do. But honestly, it's like this, even like the occlusal surface, people will say like, you know what, it's actually easier than crowns because you don't have to worry about the central groove because it's already gone. Yeah, so it has a lot of steps in a kind of like a complicated way, but if you know how to do a good crown and a good cavity, then that technique wise, it all comes very easy. So don't worry about that too much. Like really keep your focus on crowns, cavities until you know you must shift away from those. You've got plenty, and I mean plenty, to practice with them. And please do not attempt a online preparation if you do not have, like, if you do not know how to produce good cavities and crowns first. Both are like prerequisites because you need both. Like the techniques you use in them are going to be the techniques of both cavities and crowns. So don't go there. And then another important point, and if you've been like, if you've seen me talk about this before, I apologize. I'm probably repeating myself a lot, but when you start practicing, practice tabletop first. I know, honestly, there's a lot of bad advice floating around Facebook and Student Doctor Network. A lot of bad advice. You're going to take the test on a mounted typodont. Just practice on a mounted typodont as much as you can. Don't practice tabletop. I think that is the worst advice anybody could give anybody. I'm in complete transparency, if I may vent for a moment. And yes, this is just my opinion. You know, there is a preceptor program in UCLA that's their sort of dentistry preceptorship program is a very solid one. And when people join it, they learn how to do preps, and a lot of preps. For the first 6 months, I believe, no preceptor is allowed to work on a mounted typodont. They all work tabletop. Why? Because working on a mounted typodont when you don't yet have all of the basics foundations solid, it's kind of like trying to jump from the bottom of the ladder to the top of the ladder at once. Don't do that. You're going to hurt yourself. You're just wasting teeth. You're wasting your time. You're going to get so frustrated because you're not seeing much progress. And it's like, what's the point? If you cannot do a good prep when you're holding your typodont in your hand, there is no way you're going to do a good one on a mounted typodont. So how about we just try to make sure that we first know how to do it well on a handheld typodont and then replicate that, because now we know what we're going towards. Now we know what it feels like in our hands. We have that kind of what do you call it? Like when you just, it's like a memory, right? It's like a muscle memory. We have that kind of muscle memory of like, oh, this is what it feels like to do this part, or like to do this, I don't know, area. You just try to replicate that and find that again in a mounted typodont. And I'm not saying that the transition from handheld to mounted is gonna be easy. It isn't. But it is gonna be so much faster and easier if you break those into 2 steps and do it handheld and then move mounted. Okay? Give yourself plenty of time to work on a handheld typodont. I cannot stress this enough. Okay. What else do I have listed out for you? Oh, by the way, and those of you worrying about, what is it? Indirect vision. Sorry, I like lost my words. Those of you worried about indirect vision, practicing for that is another totally different kind of skill set again, right? Because it's like, it's one thing to look at the prep, but it's another thing to look in the mirror and try to do stuff. You actually want to first practice moving, like there are some exercises you can do to gain familiarity with working on the mirror image. And if you're wondering about that, for those of you who are Bench Test Mastery members, there is a past workshop recording under Bench Test Mastery workshops titled Indirect Vision, something, I don't remember the whole title, but there I go through the exact kind of steps you can follow to train your hands for indirect vision. Do that before actually attempting it. You're gonna save so much teeth. Okay, do that. And if you are not a Bench Test Mastery member, well, if you join, you'll be able to have that. But if you don't quite, you're not quite ready to join the Bench Test Mastery, but you just want to see that workshop, you can get the workshop access pass, and you'll be able to see that. That was actually a very good workshop. That's weird because I did the workshop, but anyway, I'm like giving myself a pat on the back. But anyway, it was a it was a solid workshop that I would really want you to watch. Another thing, a lot of questions came in about what materials do we need and stuff like that. Before we go into materials yet, there's one piece of advice that I want to give you, which is do not use your carbide burrs for more than 3 preps. Throw it away. It is not meant for that, okay? It really isn't. They didn't make a carbide burr to last 10 teeth. When you go to your test, you're gonna be given a brand new burr that cuts really fast. Like you want to, yeah, so like what's the point in practicing with a dull burr? It's gonna cut so much slower with the dull burr, and you're gonna be like, oh, I'm doing great. And then you're gonna go to the bench test and you're gonna be like, oh my God, this cut like so much faster than what I was used to, right? Like, don't do that. You can get a burr for less than $2 a pop. just do it. I know, like, sometimes for some of you, it may hurt to feel like, oh, I have to spend money more here and more there. Look, this is like your last stretch. There is a place to be frugal and there's a place to know how to spend. Like, this is one of those places that you need to invest. Don't use carbide burrs for more than like 3 teeth is stretching it. I wanted to say 2 teeth and just just gave you one more. I do wanted to say 2 teeth. Okay. So like anything more than that, that burr, you just need to throw it away. Don't look at it again. It'll, don't look at it. That's for 330s mostly. 245s will get dull a little bit slower just because you don't cut as much fresh tooth structure with a 245 as you would with 330. And if you use 56s, that one lasts forever. So you don't have to worry about that one so much because you're really not cutting very much at all. You're only going through and planing the floor so very lightly with it. So it's not a lot of like pressure like the 330 burr has where it needs to like blaze the trail, right? Like it needs to prep through this brand new tooth that's totally intact and you have to make this big prep on it. So this is mostly for 330s. 245s, you can use it for more. 56, you can use it for more. 330s, don't do it. You're not doing yourself a service, okay? And yeah, but one thing I always did when I was practicing, because really it takes a lot of teeth to practice, and it was like I felt like it was getting so expensive. I would practice margins, like walls and margins on teeth that I did cavity preps before, and I would like also sometimes practice crown preparations on teeth that I already I would practice cavity preparations on teeth that I already did a crown preparation on. Like, because like if you do a crown preparation, there's a central groove that you made again. I would just like go in and like, it's not a total like a full practice, but it was just like, all right, are my hands steady? Like, can I do what I want to do? That's the big thing, right? Like with your hands, if you can do what you want to do, you're in good shape. Most people make mistakes not because they don't know what to do, but it's because their hands did this when they wanted to do that, right? Or they wanted to just get rid of that tiny bump over there. But when you bring in your burr to do that, suddenly like a big chunk of it is gone, right? So it's this discrepancy between what it is that I want to do and what it is that just happens. Anyway, so let's go through this really quick. To set up a home lab, you're gonna first need the equipment part of things, which is like a compressor. So just get an air compressor. It does not have to be dental grade because you're not seeing any patients. It's okay. Just to get a silent one though, because even a silent one is so noisy. You wouldn't believe how noisy it is. So get a silent one. Get a dental turbine unit. You can get those on eBay or Amazon for pretty cheap. Get a handpiece. Please get a 4-hole. Don't get a 2-hole. There are adapters that will allow you to use your 2-hole handpiece on the turbine unit, but seriously, 2-hole handpieces they have a lot more vibration. They're not as smooth. You're gonna have a really hard time trying to do it. I can't do a good prep with a 2-hole. It's just like, it's so hard. Like, don't do it. Just pick up a new handpiece. It's worth it. Okay. So get the turbine for 4 holes, get a 4-hole handpiece, and that's your equipment part of things, right? And then there is a typodont in the teeth part, and then your burrs, your mirror, your explorer, and your hand instruments, if you just break it down that way. Burrs, there are a lot. For cavity preparations, you would get a 330, 245, and a 56. For crowns, for the occlusal, you'll get a 556. Disclaimer, 556 and 56 cut totally different. A lot of people said, oh, because they had the same dimensions, I thought they would be the same thing. So no, they are not interchangeable. Get both. 556 is another burr that you probably want to stack up on because similar to the 330 burr, it's cutting so much structure down on the occlusal surface. They will burn very fast and they will get dull very fast. So 556 for the occlusal surface, 856016 for the chamfers, 847016 KR for the shoulder, and an egg-shaped burr for the cingulum. And any thin burr would do for the interproximals, but you can also, like, you can get an 856012 for the interproximals. Rima said that last year at Buffalo, they gave rusted carbide birds. That's actually weird. And that's actually not cool. But that's very odd that they do that. Most schools will give you like brand new birds because like you're paying hundreds of dollars to go take the interview. Actually, you're paying for it. So that's that. Okay. Marie, I'm glad you are here, even though you don't have an interview yet. That is fantastic. And seriously, when you don't have the interview, that is your time to get ahead of everybody else. Okay? Because like I do get this question a lot, like, oh, how good does my prep have to be to pass the bench test? I don't know. It depends on what your competition is going to do that day, right? Like if everybody does really bad, then a mediocre prep would pass. That's not the case these days. Like you have to do pretty good. But yeah, like it is all relative to what everybody else is doing. So yes, I think that's all I have for you today. Hope you found that helpful. And I hope that kind of inspired you to set up a home lab. That's step one. If you don't have it, do it. Like, do it. And by the way, we have a article on our site that lists all of the instruments and just stuff you'll need to get a setup going. So you can try to find it. I can't remember the URL of it. Like I can't give it to you like that. But if you need it, feel free to just send an email to mail@internationaldentistcentral.com, which is, by the way, the email address that I emailed you today from. So you can just reply to that as well and just be like, hey, Dr. Alyssa said that, like, you have that list of what I need to get started with a bench test. Like, can you send me the link of it? And we'll happy to get you that link to get you started. If you just get what's listed there, like, you will be on your way to practicing. Get a lot of 330s, get a lot of 556s, get a lot of molar teeth. Upper centrals too, you'll blow through a lot of them. And yeah, so yeah, that's all. And if you want to, so now we'll be doing these workshop Wednesdays every other Wednesday. If you are a member, the Wednesdays when there is not a workshop, we do members meetings now. So just have your time cleared out for that time. We'll be meeting. Okay. And what else? If you would like to work with me for the bench test mastery, I'd be absolutely happy to work with you. You can just send an email in and just be like, hey, I want to like join the bench test mastery course, work with Dr. Alyssa on my hand skills. We'll help you get started with that. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to send us an email. I really appreciate you guys' time. Yeah, happy Wednesday. Have a great day. And you can also, if you're interested in viewing all of our past workshops, including the one about indirect vision that I just told you about, and there are some really, really, really good ones that I keep asking our members to go watch as well. There are a few that I keep referring our members to. One is like cavity preparations, common pitfalls, and a better approach, and another is crown preparations, common pitfalls, and a better approach. Those two workshops have, what I've seen over the past few years, the same mistakes people make over and over and over again. And really, mistakes are not unique. Everybody makes the same, like, people go through pretty much the same trajectory when they're practicing. So don't think that anything is like unique to like you. Like if you're struggling with doing a certain part, then probably everybody else did at some point, or if they haven't yet, they will, if that makes sense. Okay, very cool. Thank you so much for coming. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks. For the members, we'll see you back here next week, and have a fantastic Wednesday. And yeah, if you need anything from us, you can always reach us at mail@internationaldentistcentral.com. Ciao.